Please be seated. The court is now back in session. The floor is now given to the prosecution to put questions to the civil party. You may proceed. Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors, and good afternoon, everyone. And good afternoon, Mr. Soon Suwandi. My name is Jandarasmay, the National Deputy Co-Prosecutor of this Khmer Rouge Tribunal. I'm going to ask you some questions on behalf of the prosecution. Could you tell the court the occupation of your father before the 17th April 1975? Answer. He was a military officer of the Tribunal regime, and he worked with Sun San at the time. Question. What was his rank and which unit was he attached to? Answer. To my understanding, he was a captain. Question. What did your mother earn her living prior to 17 April 1975? Answer. She was a merchant. In fact, she sold grocery just at a stall in front of the house. Question. This morning you confirmed that one of your uncles named Tieng Kech, he was a soldier of the Khmer Republic regime, that is of the Tribunal regime. What rank was he at the time and which unit was he attached to? Answer. Tieng Kech, my uncle, was a lieutenant colonel. He stationed at Sly Pagoda as part of the 47th unit, that is the Mike Fork Force. And another uncle, Thach Long, he was a colonel. And they both in the same unit, that is Division 47. They were of the Cambodia origin, led by Seung Ngok Thanh. Question. When you boarded a boat in Kampong Cham at Tonle, but was your uncle on the boat as well? Answer. He was probably on the boat as he was a military officer and his subordinates and him shall be there on the boat as there was a war at Tonle but in Kampong Cham. And after they reached an agreement, then they boarded the boat for the journey to Cambodia Crown. And there were probably hundreds of them on the boat. However, the boat was shelled and sank. All died. Question: when that boat was shelled at Tunlit but in Kapung Cham, were the Lunal soldiers on the boat, or were there several of them, or just civilians on the boat? Answer: I did not witness it with my own eyes as I was in Phnom Penh, but it was likely the case. Question: when you were evacuated from Phnom Penh, by the Khmer Rouge soldiers, could the people refuse to leave? Answer: people could not refuse to leave as the soldiers were armed, and if someone refused to leave, that person would be shot dead at the house. And it happened at the nearby houses, near my house. Some houses had the rocket launchers fired in through, and by witnessing that, I decided to leave. So I packed some rice and I went along with the other people. If I were to leave, I would probably die. They were cruel and mean. Question: when people were being evacuated and while they were on the road, did the Khmer Rouge actually have their people to monitor or to track down the people while they were traveling en route? And did they threaten the people while they were traveling? Answer: during the evacuation, we were actually forced to move quickly, as Americans would drop bombs from their B-52 planes, and that Phnom Penh would be smashed to pieces by a nuclear bomb. And we were forced to move to go and following our Angkar instruction, and that we would meet with Angkar, but we did not know who Angkar was. We could not spend the money that we had, and along the road we tried to barter for things. We exchanged the clothing that we had or the gold that we had for food. Question: when people were evacuated from Phnom Penh by the Khmer Rouge, did the Khmer Rouge give instruction to the people, or did they assist the pregnant women, the children, the disabled people, or those who could not walk, for instance, the elderly? Did they have any measures, such measures during the evacuation? Answer: during the evacuation, initially there were some people who had the medical knowledge would assist each other. But when we were at the Angkar places, there was no medicine given, and what we were given were only those repeated drop of pellets. and they use coconut juice as IV fluid. Question: when you reach your last destination in Saang district, and during your living there, did you witness any strategy that happened to the people in Saang district? And did you meet any of the Khmer Rouge leadership in Saang district? And if so, what did they tell you? Answer: at the place where I lived, I did not meet any of them, as I went to work outside and I came only back into the village to get my gruel ration. And if people were requested to go and work in the farm, sometimes it means that they would not survive, that they would be killed. And some people were actually gathered up to dig their own pits, and later on they were killed. I refer to those Cambodia Krauma people, and they were walking lines, line by line. And it happened around 6 or 7 p.m. so that not many people could observe that. Thank you, Mr. Sun Sawandi. As the time is limited, I will only ask you 2 more questions. Can you tell the court why you had to flee from Cambodia and went to Vietnam in late 1978? Answer: as I thought that one day it would be my turn to be killed, because at that time the Bopia people was being killed every day. So we thought that we would not be spared, and we were only waiting for the day to be killed. And for that reason, we decided to swim across the river to seek help from the Vietnamese side. And yes, upon arriving in Vietnam, some Vietnamese fishermen actually assisted us. And they were actually spies for the Vietnamese. And then they sent bigger boats to rescue us. And then we told them that the Pol Pot group killed a lot of people, and that the Khmer people killed the Khmer people. And for that reason, we would seek a refuge in their land. And at that time, they could also witness how skinny we were. And we were actually shocked to see their country, to see everything was kind of normal with the market. But when we look back, it was despair and hopelessness. We did not have any freedom to do anything. We could not even walk across from one side of the street to the other. We were only confined to only travel between where we stay and where we worked. It was a prison without wall. Question: based on the document, you left Cambodia in 1977. And upon your arrival, you would enjoy your freedom of speech, your freedom to travel, which was contrary to the situation back in the Democratic Cambodia regime. Did you think the Cambodian people living in Cambodia at that time had the same right and freedom as you had in Vietnam? Because you were the one who experienced the situation itself. Could you tell the court? Answer. People were deprived of their freedom. I could not say about the best people or about themselves, but for the evacuees like myself, there was no freedom whatsoever. We were confined between the place we worked and the place we stayed. And sometimes we stole a potato, and even we would not be able to eat it and allow people to saw us eating. Otherwise, we would be accused of betraying the collective. And another instance, sometimes we try to put extra leaves, 3 leaves, into the watery gruel as a supplement, but we would not allow to do that. Even for the younger Khmer's people, the 13 or the 14 people, they would even kick at the bowl that we ate. But upon arriving in Vietnam, the situation was contrasting. There was a market, and at that time, I actually consumed three bowls of noodle at one time. And when I look back, it was so pitiful for the situation in Cambodia and for the people who were forced to work, and they knew only nothing but working, and there was no market, nothing at all. And that was extremely opposite of the initial liberation. As after the liberation, we applauded. We were so happy we saw the peace would arrive. But it was the opposite. It seems that we were imprisoned in a prison without wall. We were deprived of rice and were given only watery gruel. And we would not even allow to supplement the watery gruel with the 3 leaves. I actually picked a mango, and I almost lost my life for that. I was accused that I betrayed the collective, that I picked that mango without requesting or informing the Angkar. And I was blamed by this young soldier who actually dragged his rifle. The situation was indescribable. Thank you, Mr. Sun Savandi. On behalf of the prosecution, I thank you very much for answering the questions, and I hoped that your responses would contribute to ascertaining the truth, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you, Mr. Savandi, and thank you, Mr. President. I have no further questions for this civil party. President, the floor is now given to Nuon Chi's defense to put questions to this civil party. You may proceed. Sonaron, Mr. President. We, the Council for Nuon Chi, do not have any question for this civil party. Thank you. President, thank you. The floor is then given to Kiew Sampon's defense to put questions to this civil party. You may proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon to all the parties, and good afternoon, civil party. My name is Anta Gise. I am International Co-Counsel for Mr. Kiew Sampan. And in this capacity, I wish to put some questions to you for purposes of clarification. And I will be very brief. In any case, we do not have much time. I understand, Mr. Civil Party, that when on the 17th of April 1975 you had to leave your home, you were with your sister at home at the time, and I have also understood from your explanations that your parents and younger brothers and sisters had left the home a week before. Did I understand your testimony correctly?
Yes, that is correct for the evacuation. And I already stated that earlier today.
Alors, je précise que...
Let me point out upfront that I'm asking for these clarifications because in the form you filled initially, the reference is as follows. In English, by the way, it's document D22/2745/1 in English and 27 in Khmer, and the ERN is as follows. In English is 00556030, and in Khmer it is 00556039, and it continues on the following page. My question for purposes of clarification is raised because when you read the first form, you understand that the entire family left on the same day. I also noticed that in the supplemental information form, which you appear to have rectified or corrected, and it is the following document in French, 009-09167. And in Khmer, it is 00579-163, and in English, 00865-120. In this supplementary document, this is what you state in French. When the Khmer Rouge arrived in 1975, I was living with my sister in Phnom Penh. The problem I have with this information, and which is why I need your clarifications, is that in the first form, for which I gave the reference number, you described the facts as follows. In any case, this is what we find on the form. You stated that you had been separated from your family, you and your sister, along the road. So my question to you is this. When were you separated from your family? Was that on the road, or you were separated quite simply because your parents had left before the 17th of April, 1975?
They actually had left 1 week earlier. That's why we were separated. And when I left with my elder sister, and when we reached the Angkar place, then she was separated from me, as she was moved to a mobile unit, and I moved to another mobile unit.
Donc ma question plus précise.
So, in specific terms, my question to you is as follows. If your parents left 1 week before the 17th of April, why did they leave? Were they forced to leave?
They were forced to leave. At that time, they were told that they should leave for a short period of time until they prepared Phnom Penh, and then they would be allowed to return in a month or so, and for that reason, my parents asked me to stay behind at the house. But later on, everybody was asked to leave. Otherwise, we would be killed by the bomb dropping by the American planes.
D'accord, mais
Very well. But 1 week before the 17th of April 1975, the Khmer Rouge had not yet arrived in Phnom Penh. So my question to you is this. Who forced your parents to leave their home at that time, since you state that that was 1 week before you were evacuated? 1 week before you were evacuated, your parents left. Who forced them to leave at that time?
Here I talked about the events that took place after the liberation of Phnom Penh. I did not talk about the date prior to arrival of the Khmer Rouge. After Phnom Penh was liberated, people were chased to leave Phnom Penh. I talk about the day that they were chased from Phnom Penh, and the point that they had left earlier because we were told that we would have to go only temporarily and that we would be allowed to come back. But I cannot recall for sure the date that we left. I could only recall that at that time the Khmer Rouge were everywhere in Phnom Penh. Some of them could not even drive a motorbike, and they wanted to drive it, but they fell down. They did not even know how to use a pen, but they tried to put a pen in their upper pocket. And I saw goods and materials being transported busily in Phnom Penh at the time. Here I refer to the period that they had already entered the Phnom Penh, and that people were chased to leave Phnom Penh. I cannot recall the specific date.
il y a un point que je ne comprends pas bien.
There's a matter that I do not fully understand. Pardon me. You're saying that you don't recall the exact date, and yet this morning all of the questions that were put to you were based on the premise of things happening as of April 17th, 1975. Am I to understand that you nor your sister left Phnom Penh on April 17th, 1975, or short, but afterwards? Is that what I am to conclude?
I describe it based on the event that unfolded on the Liberation Day on the 17th of April 1975, when people were evacuated out of Phnom Penh. And when they evacuated Phnom Penh, they told us that we would leave for a short period of time. We would leave for 2 or 3 days, and then we would return to Phnom Penh because they need to organize the city. So people left in stages. Some people left earlier and others left later, and then they threatened the people with the American bombardment in the city, so we had to leave.
Ça, j'ai bien.
Yes, Mr. Civil Party, I understood that quite clearly. However, my issue lies with the date on which you left and your parents left. You stated that your parents departed 1 week prior to your departure. So either they left before, they left 7 days before April 17th, 1975, because you had left on April 17th, 1975. Do you understand my question? Because when you say that you left on the same date as your parents or not, there would be two different occasions. But my question is, if you stayed at your residence after 1975, after April 17th, 1975, after liberation, did you stay for 1 week after the liberation of Phnom Penh at your home?
Yes, that is correct. As I stated in my testimony earlier, I think that I have made myself clear with that. I do not recall the exact date because it has been so many years since then. At that time, I was 17 years of age, and now I am 57 or 58 already. I have forgotten some of the events. There were a lot of issues, a lot of events at that time, and I had to move here and there. I could not remember every detail, and I have separated with my relatives. I had to leave from one place to another in search for my relatives. I went to various refugee camps, but I could not find any of my relatives there. And I was from a soldier family from the Lonol regime. I wanted to be soldier myself, and I wanted to be in paramilitary official, and I wanted to find out why we as family had to separate. I was looking for my relatives, but I could find none of them. And even overseas, I did not find that they were living or residing in any countries.
Juste pour que ce soit...
In the interest of absolute clarity, and this is my final question in an attempt for clarity, are you stating that you remained at your family residence after the Khmer Rouge soldiers that you described this morning had ordered you to leave the city of Phnom Penh? Did you stay in spite of the order? That is my question.
Yes, that is correct. They forced us to leave our home, but I stayed on, and then it was until they threatened us, and I heard gunfires as well, and I then had to leave. The President. Lead co-lawyer for the civil party. Is there any issue? You may proceed. Council Pijong. Thank you, Mr. President. I think that the question and answers are not consistent. According to my listening to the French channel, during the question was whether or not he was with his family after the 17th of April 1975, the week after that. But in Khmer, it seems that he and his family was in Phnom Penh or not. So I think it is not clear. In order to make it clear for everyone, I think that we need to clarify this, because I believe that his statement does not respond to the question by counsel. So I would like to suggest that counsel put the question again for the clarity's sake. Thank you, Mr. President.
Je ne sais pas.
I'm not entirely sure what was said in Khmer. However, what I did say, it was perhaps not properly conveyed. So yes, let's try and achieve clarity. Mr. Civil Party, today at this hearing you have stated that your parents and your younger siblings left your family residence 1 week before you, sir, left Phnom Penh, before you left your house. Is this correct? And have I understood accurately? Did your parents leave Phnom Penh 1 week before you did?
Yes, that is correct.
Et est-ce que
And did they leave on the day that the Khmer Rouge entered Phnom Penh, the day of the liberation of Phnom Penh?
Yes, that is correct.
donc vous-même
Therefore, since you left 1 week after your parents, would it be accurate to say that you left 1 week after the liberation of Phnom Penh?
Yes. Because they told us that we would leave the city for a period of time until they reorganize the city, then we would come back. So I and my younger sister had to stay back to look after our house, hoping that our parents would return home after they have reorganized the city. But in reality, they never returned. So it was not only my families, but the other families in the city as well had to leave. At that time, they had no choice. Otherwise, their life would be in real danger. So they had to leave. And nobody dare protest. Those who dare protest, they would confront the gun shoot instantly.
entre le moment de la
From the time of liberation and from the time your parents left your family home and from the time that you yourself left your family home with your sister, if I understand correctly, you had stayed the entire time at your home. You never left or exited at any point in time. Is that correct?
Yes, I had to leave. I had to leave my house. Otherwise, I would be gunned down over there. They warned us that if I resist leaving, I would be killed in Phnom Penh because Americans would bombard the city soon. So we had no choice but leave the city. We had to. And then after that, we heard gunfires from every direction of the city. I did not know what was going on, so everyone had to leave the house. And as for my parents, before they left, they told me that if I left the house, I should look for them somewhere along the river bank. But I followed them anyway, but I could not find them. When I was being evacuated, I was only told by others that my parents had already returned to Phnom Penh to welcome the prince at that time, but I did not know where they were killed.
je ne sais pas si c'est à cause de la traduction, mais
I'm not sure if this was a matter of interpretation, but that wasn't my question. I wanted to know, from the time that your parents left on the day of liberation and from the time that you, sir, left, which, based on your statement, was 1 week after liberation, did you, had you been staying at your house the entire time, or did you ever leave?
Yes, I was evacuated out of my house, and then I had to look for them along the river. The President. That is the question, Mr. Vandi. I clarify the question for you. Your parents left you a week earlier, and during that period you stay in your family residence. It was only 1 week after your parents' departure did you leave your house. So the question for you is that from the time when your parents left your house until the day when you departed your house, did you ever go out anywhere outside of your house or not? Response. After my parents' departure, I simply walked around my neighborhood. I saw people carrying their belongings and other stuff out of Phnom Penh, and I was rather afraid at that time, so I prepared my stuff as well, and then I went out looking for my parents.
Monsieur de la partie civile,
Mr. Civil Party, I wish to know whether the scenes that you've described of Khmer Rouge soldiers firing gunshots happened on the day that your parents left Phnom Penh, on the same day as the liberation of Phnom Penh, or if they occurred 7 days after April 17th, 1975. Did you witness that scene on the day of your parents' departure or on the day of your own departure?
I witnessed that scene. I witnessed the Khmer Rouge soldiers threaten the people. They shoot the guns into the air to deter people to leave the city. And I then decided to leave my house to look for my parents. I had to look for them along the riverbank.
une dernière tentative et après.
One final attempt before I conclude, Mr. President. On the day that you left, 1 week after your parents' departure, on that same day, were there other people among Phnom Penh residents who were in the midst of leaving Phnom Penh? Or were you and your sister the only people to leave Phnom Penh on that day?
I saw many other people walking or marching out of the city. I saw people walking along the street in lines. At that time, we were evacuated along National Road Number 1 to Chbampo, and it was very crowded along the road. People started to leaving the city. Some were walking their bicycles, others were on their motorbike. It was very crowded indeed on that day along the road.
Et pour que ce soit bien clair,
And to be crystal clear, the scene that you describe happened on the day that you departed with your sister. Is this correct?
Yes, they left altogether. They had to leave. They had no choice. They were forcibly moved out of the city. And when I was leaving the city, I saw people walking along the street. It was very crowded. I think I have answered this question. Of course, some people left earlier and others left later because people told us that we would leave the city for a period of time. So people started to leave. Some left earlier and others left later. That was the situation at the time.
Bien, Monsieur le Président, je m'en arrêterai là.
Mr. President, on that, I hereby conclude my questioning of the civil party. I wish to thank him for having attempted to answer my questions. Thank you.
The President. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sun Suvandi. The hearing of your statement of suffering and harm has come to an end now, and your presence before the chamber is no longer needed. Your statement of suffering and harms, as well as your testimony, will contribute to ascertaining the truth. I thank you, Mr. Sun Suvandi, and I wish you the best of luck. And court officer is instructed to coordinate with the Wesu unit to arrange the transport of Mr. Sun Suvandi to any direction he wishes to go or to his home. Mr. Sun Suvandi, you are now released. You can go back home. The President. Court officer, please usher in the other civil party for today's hearing, TCCP 141. The President. In the proceeding on hearing the testimony and the statement of suffering of the civil party, due to the fact that this particular civil party has a problem with her eyesight, the Chamber wishes to advise parties and members of the public that the Chamber will grant Madam Chai Ridat, the members of the staff member of the TPO organization, to sit beside this particular civil party to assist her whenever there is a need of her assistance when she is testifying and stating her suffering and harm from the crimes. And I wish to also advise the assistant that you should advise Madam TC civil party accordingly concerning the equipments and facilities that is in use in order to ensure the smooth proceedings. Good afternoon, civil party. What is your name? Response. My name is Sain Sivata. Question. How old are you, Ms. Sain Sivata? Response. I am 47 years old. Question. Where is your place of birth? Response. Now I live in Takeo, in Po Village, Kiriwung District, Takeo Province. Question. What about your place of birth? I was born in Takeo Province. Question. What is your occupation? Response. I do not have any occupation because I am blind. Questions. What is your parents' occupation and what are their names? Response. My father was Prumthon and my mother was Maupan. The President. Thank you, Ms. Sain Sivata. Are you married? Response. I got married in 1982. Question. What is your husband's name and how many children do you have? Response. I have 4 children. My husband's name is Chia Thun. The President. Thank you, Madam Sain Sivata. In your capacity as the civil party before the proceedings, the Chamber will grant you the opportunity to state your suffering or harms that were inflicted on you materially, physically, or psychologically, which was the direct or indirect result of the crimes committed during that period that led to you filing an application to join as the civil party to the proceeding concerning the crime alleged against the co-accused Nguyen Chi and Khieu Sampon. And these sufferings and harms were the result of the crimes allegedly committed during the period of the Democratic Cambodia from the 17th of April 1975 to the 6th of January 1979. And your counsel wishes to put questions to you before you make any statement. So I would like to give the floor to the counsel to put question to you first, and then after that you may make your statement concerning your suffering as well as your harms that the chamber has already advised you. And now I hand over the floor to the counsel who was delegated by the lead co-lawyers for the civil party to put the question to you. You may proceed, counsel.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to all those present in the courtroom. I'm a civil party lawyer representing Madame Sivata, and as you have seen, she has been admitted as a civil party to this trial as part of the Kham Kok cooperative. She cannot see. I will be making reference to two documents, D22/3805 and E9/32.216. Madame Seng, good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us this afternoon. I wish to put a few questions to you concerning your experience under the Khmer Rouge regime. You will then be given the opportunity to ask the accused a certain number of questions. My first question to you concerns your sight. You are unable to see, you are blind, and you have stated in your civil party application that you lost your sight because of the Khmer Rouge. Can you please tell this chamber how that happened?
The reason my eyes went blind was that during the 3 years, 8 months and 20 days period, I was forced to collect pig's excrement in a deep pit, and I had to carry more than 20 baskets for each turn. I became exhausted with insufficient food to eat, and I had to climb out of the pit carrying the pig excrement. I fainted, and then I fell down. And the person who was carrying the pig excrement behind me actually stepped on me, and I was hit with a shoulder carry pole. They later tied me up to a tree and they beat me up. I cried. They kept beating, and then they hit my left eye. Later on, they collected the fertilizer stored in a warehouse. I cried. I tried to collect my own share and put it into the warehouse. I could not do anything that late evening, so I went for my porridge ration. Actually, my left eye was very painful at the time, and the tear dropped at night, and in the morning I could not go to work because of the pain in my eyes. So I went to meet with my grandfather, and the rest of the family were not in. I saw him on the stack of hay and asked him to look at my eye, and he asked me what happened, why it became so red, and I was told that I was bitten with a rope, and he told me to warm it with a soaked scarf. But I could not. He could not have me for long as he has to work with the hay. And then he asked me to carry the cow dung back to my mobile unit. At that time, I was pretty young. I was around 11 years old when that happened, and I would not know what would happen to my eye later on. I thought that it could be treated, but there was no medical treatment, and whenever I washed my face, it was so painful. I struggled to work with the extreme pain on my left eye. And later on, I decided to go and meet my mother, but my mother was not there, so I carried the pain in my eye with me, and on the Liberation Day in 1979, I learned that my left eye was completely damaged. As at the time I reunited with my parents, and they noticed that my left eye was smaller than the right eye. My mother looked at it, and she knew that there's a small spot on the Irish, and that she said she would purchase a medicine from Vietnam and then use it on my eye, but it didn't get any better. So it became worse each day, and I actually attended the school in 1980. I was in class, but my tear from my left eye kept flowing. And at that time, even on my right-hand side, things became a blur. I could not read the letters on the blackboard clearly. And people made a joke out of me at the time. They asked me, I have a one-eye girl. I was ashamed of that, so I decided to quit the school and came to sell small stuff with my grandmother. And in 1982, I got married. And by that time, my left eye was completely gone. And my right eye became worse. The tear kept flowing and I could not see things properly. Let me go back a little bit. In fact, in 1980, my grandmother took me to the Chinese hospital of Pechon here, and I was told that my left eye could not be recovered. So there was no hope in recovering my left eye, and unfortunately my right eye became worse. And the treatment, despite the treatment, it did not get any better. And as I said earlier, I got married in 1982. I tried my best to earn a living and to treat my right eye continuously in hopes that it would get better. And in 1995, it became more worse. And in fact, I went to the Ong Duong hospital and to get rid of my left eye and put a superficial one. And I was told that the right eye could not be fully recovered as it was badly infected by the left eye. It was so depressing because I now learned that I could become a blind woman forever for the rest of my life. Despite the treatment, it didn't get any better, and by 2008, both went completely blind. When I became completely blind, my husband left me. He said I would not be able to, that he could not be able to stay with me because I could not do anything for him. So he went for another woman. The situation was devastating. I could not have anyone to support me, and I had to raise my 4 children, including their education. My 17-year son had to work for the construction, and the rest had to work as well, and my 3-year-old child had to walk me every day. The situation was extremely difficult. Let me go back a little bit. In fact, on the 17th April 1975, I was pretty young back then. I was only 9 years old when we were evacuated from Phnom Penh. The situation was terrible. My grandmother tied my hand to my younger sibling so that we would not get lost as there were crowded of people leaving Phnom Penh. So our hands were tied together and she walked us along the way. I saw dead dead bodies along the road. Sometimes I had to walk crossing the dead bodies. Sometimes I became so exhausted and thirsty under the extreme heat. and we could only eat with one hand because the other hand was tied to one another, and we just kept walking, and by nightfall we reached the place where we could rest. We reached Chbampo Bridge toward the Narod Pagoda and Kakrabai Pagoda, and then we reached the National Road number 3, and we saw a GMC truck. I did not know which party it belongs to. Then we asked to board the truck in order to go to the countryside. I heard my grandparents asking why we were put onto the track for going through the province, because we were told that we would only leave Phnom Penh for a short period of time. But we did not dare to protest. So we boarded the truck, and they took us to Tamej mountain in Takeo province in sector 109. Not for long, as we stayed in the village, we were sent to a mobile unit in Srakwam. The situation there was miserable. I was young, and I was assigned to work day and night to collect grass, to transplant seedlings, and at 4 a.m. to carry the seedlings for older people to transplant it. At that time, I did not know what lychees were. I thought lychees were for consumption, and I asked a lady, and the lady told me that we could fry it. Out of my stupidity, I went into the pond. I got all the lychees, but when I came up, the lady ran away, and I by then learned that it was scary to have the lychees on your body. In my mind, I decided not to go and work again, but I could not protest. I was forced to work, and and my ration was actually withdrawn at some point. And then I decided to flee into the forest, and I was in the forest for 5 or 6 months without any food. I slept on top of a tree without anything beside the clothing on my body, and without any food. I could just eat whatever I could find, tree leaves, cucumber, or any other vegetable or snail. Sometimes I ate a raw snail, sometimes I ate grass, and sometimes I crawled into a rice field and ate the rice grains there. And because I was afraid that people would see me, I would eat sand as well. It was extremely difficult, and I could not put it in words. I was later sent to sector 105, that is a Tramkot district in Trapeng Thum, Khang Chung. That was also the miserable period again, as I was in the mobile unit, and I had to water 5 beds of vegetable. It was a very long bed, and I had to carry the water from the pond to water those 5 beds of vegetable. In order to get the water from the pond, they had these 3 trunks where I had to walk up and down, and it was slippery. I tried my best, and by the end of each day, I was relieved that I could finish it. One day I slipped and I fell into the pond. They did not blame me, but just asked me to keep working. I had a fever and I was exhausted. I had nothing to eat and I was very hungry, and I decided to eat an orange. There was an orange tree near where I water the vegetable after I finished eating it, as I did not throw away the outer skin, and I was spotted by my unit chief, and the person smelled my mouth and smelled the orange and asked me whether I picked the orange or ate the orange. But the word was not displeasant, and I said that I did not pick any orange or ate it. The person did not believe it and used the scarf to wrap around my neck and suffocated me. My tongue almost stuck out. I could not speak. I was suffocating. My tears dropped, and I told the person the truth that I, in fact, picked a lemon, not an orange. Corrects the interpreter. The person tightened my neck again, but later on, the children of the best people begged the person and asked the person to stop mistreating me because I was hungry. That's why I stole that lemon. I was then released and warned that I could not pick any lemon anymore. So I went to continue working by watering the vegetable again. I faced extreme difficulties during that 3-year, 8-month and 20-day regime, as we were in the children's unit, but we worked as hard as the adult, and we were not given sufficient food. We were given a ladle of gruel, sometimes mixed with corn or potato, and I never used to eat this kind of food, but I had to do it. It was out of hunger. And at night, I had to sleep alone. Sometimes I had to sleep on the dining table, on the ground, on palm tree. We did not have any soaps for washing ourselves. There was no clean water. And sometimes we had food to eat. Sometimes we were deprived of food. I developed a skin rash everywhere, all over my body. My feet were swollen. I could hardly walk. So I had to use a scarf to tighten it, to lift it up to support me so that I could walk. I also had a numb. And at night time, when I was sleeping by myself, I kept weeping. I wanted to run to my house, but I could not. Because if I ran to my house, I would not meet my parents there, as they were not there. They were sent to separate cooperatives, including my elder sister. So I decided to remain in the children's unit and to face those difficulties. I was beaten up. I was not given food. I slept without a mat or a mosquito net. I did not have any other spare clothing besides the clothes on my body, and I had lice all over my skin and body. at night time, sometimes we had to attend the criticism and self-criticism meetings, and I did not know what it was about. I just talk about this or that because they said I had to stand and criticize somebody, otherwise I would be criticized for just minor mistakes that I had. For example, I could be a bit slow in fulfilling my workload for the day. And I was pretty young back then. I just kept criticizing this person or that person, and in return I was criticized. And sometimes I was wrong in my criticism, and I was beaten up for that. And that was extremely unpleasant, as I was criticized despite my effort in achieving the workload that I was given. And sometimes even if I was sick, I had to work. And by 1979, I became happy because I knew that I survived. But unfortunately, my eyes became useless as I was completely blind, and later on I was abandoned by my husband, and I could not earn a living as ordinary people. And that's the challenge that I have to bear with me for the rest of my life.
Merci, Madame Singh, d'avoir.
Thank you, Madame Singh, for sharing this experience with us, as well as the suffering you endured. I wish to put a few additional questions to you on what happened to you in that cooperative. You were very young at the time. You told us you were only 11, and children of your age were forced to work as hard as adults. You stated in your written statement that you carried disease. Can you explain to us what you had to do at the time and what it meant to you?
I was an 11-year-old girl, and I was forced to work with the human waste and the animal excrement, and to carry them and store them in a shed. And sometimes I was asked to collect cow dung from the rice fields, and I had to collect 80 kilograms per day. And for collecting the pig excrement, then I would be monitored by the unit chief. And I had to collect the pig excrement from a deep pit. I was scared. And it was waist deep. And at night time I could not sleep that well because of the rash on my skin. And when we were given food, for example, a piece of a potato, I would not be allowed to get out of the pit, and I would be standing in the pit and get the potato and ate it. There was no hygiene at all. I was eating my food while I was in the pig excrement pit. My whole body was stunk, but I could not do anything or protest. And I had to force myself to work so that I would not be blamed.
Est-ce qu'on vous a donné du savon à l'époque?
Were you given soap at the time to wash yourself with?
No, there was no soap at the time. There was no soap to wash my body or my hair. And we did not have any spare clothes. We only had the clothes on that we were wearing. Upon taking the fertilizer to the shed, then I would go to the pond to wash myself there, and then I would come out of the pond to stand and dry myself under the sun.
Vous nous avez dit qu'on vous...
You've told us that you were forced to work even when you were sick, when you had fever. Were you given any medicines when you were sick?
When I had a fever, headache, I was not given any medicine. We would not be even allowed to rest when we were sick. And in fact, we did not dare tell them that we were sick. And if we were sick, we would not be given any medicine for the treatment.
Merci, Madame Singh.
Thank you, Mrs. Singh. I would like us to now talk about the death of your younger sister. You explained in your written statement that she died for lack of medicines. Can you explain to the court what all that was all about?
My younger sister had a fever and she got the rash on her body. There was no medicine for her treatment and nobody who would take care of her. She became emaciated and she was left unattended in a hammock. And there was no food for her, not even a watery gruel, and her condition became worse. And later on, my mother took her to the hospital in the hope that there would be medicine for her, but unfortunately, there was no medicine given to her, and unfortunately, my younger sister died.
Merci, Madame Singh.
Thank you, Mrs. Singh. Apart from losing your sight, do you suffer from any other illnesses as a result of the events you endured at the time?
Currently, I have a lot of medical problems. I have poor hearing. It was the result from my blindness, and it became sensitive, and sometimes I find I have difficulty breathing. And I find it difficult to survive and to live when I became blind. Sometimes I wanted to kill myself by taking a poisonous drug, but my elder sister and my mother advised me not to think that way and that I should continue living in order to raise my children. Currently, I have no ability to go for medical treatment or to buy any medicine for the treatment. There have been several symptoms happening with me. At night time, I have nightmares and my body trembles when there is a loud noise, and sometimes I become short-tempered and that I have to hit my children or one of my children. President, thank you, Council, and thank you, civil party. We will take a 15-minute break, and we shall resume at 3:05 so that we can continue the proceeding. Court officer, could you assist this civil party and the TPO staff during the break and have them return to the courtroom at 3:05.
សូមគោរពឈរ